The envelope showed up on a Tuesday. I remember because Tuesdays were supposed to be my easy days only 2 showings and a stack of paperwork. I'd grab my mail on the walk up to my apartment, flipping through the usual garbage. Credit card ads. A grocery flyer. Something from my dentist. Then I saw it. Heavy cream paper. A law office return address. Whitmore and Associates. Estate planning attorneys? My heartbeat stumbled into a sprint. This was it. The trust fund. Grandma's trust fund. The one my parents had controlled since I turned 18. The same one they'd sworn would be entirely mine once I hit 28. Today was 3 weeks past my birthday. And here it was, my financial freedom finally arriving in my hands. I fumbled with my keys, nearly dropped my purse, and barely got inside before tearing the envelope open. The check slipped out first. I caught it, flipped it over, and felt my stomach crash through the floor. $14,650.28. I stared at it, blinked, looked again. $14,650.28. That couldn't be real. Grandma had created the trust when I was born. I'd overheard my parents discuss it once when I was little, something about a life insurance payout and smart investments. How it had grown over time. I never knew the exact amount, but they'd always made it sound big, transformative, enough to launch my life after college. My hands trembled as I opened the letter tucked behind the check. Dear Miss Tate, per the terms of the Sarah Elizabeth Tate Memorial Trust, we are pleased to inform you that you have reached the age of majority distribution. 28 years. Enclosed is the final disbursement of the remaining principal. Remaining principal. The words warped on the page. I grabbed the second sheet, the financial breakdown dense, with numbers and line items that made my vision blur. But certain phrases glowed like warning signs. Administrative management fees. $8,450. Annual expense reimbursements. Iwan Launsen Senbai, average annual. Trustee compensation. Yuan Wu 10 annual. The dates stretched back 10 years. 10 years of fees. 10 years of reimbursements for expenses I'd never approved. Never even heard of. Travel expenses. Educational consultation services. Something vague called administrative overhead. My brain did the math automatically. Occupational hazard of real estate. Rough estimate. They'd siphoned somewhere between $100,000 and $1. $130,000 from my inheritance. Legally, because they were the trustees, and I'd been too afraid to challenge them. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Sweetie, did you get your little check? Don't spend it all in one place. Little check. I wanted to hurl my phone at the wall. Instead, I dropped onto my couch, that miserable check still in my fist, and let the memories hit me. I was 16, finishing junior year. Dad had come home waving a thick packet of Disney World brochures, spreading them across the dining table with a huge grin. Elamai's older sister, the golden child, had squealed and hugged him. Mom was already talking outfits. What about me? I'd asked. Dad hadn't even glanced up. Hotel's fully booked, kiddo. We could only get one room, and it's barely big enough for the 3 of us. You understand? I'd nodded. I always understood. They'd left me with Aunt Sarah for the week. I spent it babysitting my cousin Delilah, who was 6, while Uncle Bo worked double shifts at the construction site. When my parents returned, tanned and laughing, they brought me a single pressed penny from the Magic Kingdom. Ella got a full Minnie Mouse outfit and a handcrafted photo album. The hotel hadn't been fully booked. Months later, I found the reservation confirmation on Mom's iPad standard room, 4-person occupancy. They just hadn't wanted me there. Then college. I'd worked 2 jobs, library by day, waitress by night, to cover whatever my scholarships didn't. My parents said the trust was locked until graduation, that I needed to learn responsibility. Ella, she got everything covered. Tuition, a monthly allowance, a new car, a laptop. Graduation night, I crossed that stage alone. Mom and Dad had texted that morning. Something came up. We'll celebrate when you visit. Something came up. Later, I found out they'd taken Ella to Paris, a sister trip to celebrate her engagement. They toasted champagne at the Eiffel Tower while I ate frozen pizza in my dorm, packing for years of my life into boxes. The student loans took me 6 years to clear. 6 years in a shoebox studio, driving a car held together with duct tape and hope, eating ramen more nights than I'll ever admit. 8 months ago, I made the last payment. I still remember the breath I finally felt able to take. And through all that, my parents were bleeding my trust dry, charging it for management, turning my grandmother's gift into their personal wallet. The worst part, I had always suspected. But every time I brought up the trust, Dad shut me down hard. Once, when I was 22 and desperate, nearly behind on rent, I called him, asked if I could take a small advance from my own fund. His voice turned icy. "You want to know what happens to ungrateful children who question their parents, Sadie? I'm the trustee. That means I can petition the court to freeze the fund if I'm worried about your mental stability. Keep pushing me, and I'll have you declared incompetent. You won't see a cent until you're 50, if ever." I apologized. I apologized for asking about my own money. After that, I learned to stay small, stay quiet, accept crumbs, never ask for more. But now, his power was over. The trust dissolved. The check, pathetic as it was, sat in my hand, and he couldn't use it against me anymore. My phone buzzed again. A Facebook notification. My parents had blocked me long ago, so I couldn't see their spending. This was from my cousin Marcy, who'd posted a new album called Family Reunion. I tapped it open. The photo showed my entire family. Dad, Mom, Ella relaxing on a blinding white beach, tropical cocktails in hand, turquoise water behind them. Caption: Cabo vibes with the Tate crew. Family vacation, living our best life. Cabo San Lucas, a 5-star resort. Judging by the chairs and the umbrellas, they were there right now. They'd left me behind. Again, only this time they did it using my money. I stared at the photo until my eyes burned. Then I closed the app, deleted the notification, and sat in the stillness of my apartment. $14,650.28. That was the price tag on my grandmother's love. That was the price tag on me. I almost skipped Aunt Sarah's that night. I'd promised I'd come for dinner, just our usual once-a-month Tuesday meal, but I felt scraped raw, empty. The last thing I wanted was to pretend everything was fine. But then I pictured staying home alone with that check on my coffee table. I couldn't do it. I couldn't let them steal this from me too, so I drove. Aunt Sarah lived 40 minutes out of the city, in a neighborhood where the houses were modest and the yards stretched wide. Uncle Bo's truck was in the driveway, an old but spotless Ford, its bed full of tools from whatever construction site he'd been on. The front door swung open before I could knock. "There's my girl," Aunt Sarah said, pulling me into a hug that smelled like rosemary and warmth. She was tiny, barely 5'3", but her hugs made you feel anchored, safe. I held on a second too long. She pulled back, studying my face. "You okay, honey?" "Long day," I said, forcing a smile. "Real estate stuff." She didn't believe me, but she didn't push. That was her way: give space. Wait for you to come to her inside. Uncle Bo was standing over a cast-iron skillet, flipping pork chops. He glanced up and grinned, lines around his eyes deepening. "Hey, Sadie girl. Perfect timing. Hope you're hungry." "Starving," I lied. Dinner was simple pork chops, mashed potatoes, green beans from their garden. Nothing fancy. Nothing curated for an Instagram feed. Just good food, made deliberately, served at a table worn by decades of family dinners. Uncle Bo plated everything, scanning the pork chops carefully. Then he slid the biggest, juiciest piece, the one with perfect churron, to my plate. "That one's yours," he said. Something inside me cracked. I looked down at that pork chop, at the thought behind it, and felt my phone buzz in my pocket. A bank alert. A deposit had cleared. $42,000. Commission payment. Riverside commercial property. The deal I'd spent 3 exhausting months closing. One of the biggest sales of my career. Money I earned through grit, skill, and endless negotiations. $42,000. Almost triple what my parents left me from the trust. I looked at Aunt Sarah, at Uncle Bo, at the faded tablecloth, at the mismatched chairs, at the pork chop chosen just for me, and something clicked. I'd spent years thinking I needed my parents, needed their love, their approval, their scraps of attention. I let them control me because I believed family was supposed to be blood, supposed to be the people who raised you. But family wasn't blood. Family was the man who gave you the best piece of meat. Family was the woman who hugged you before you reached the door. Family was the people who showed up consistently, unconditionally. I still had loved ones. And for the first time in 12 years, I wasn't afraid anymore. The fragile peace lasted exactly 3 days before the phone shattered. As I left a property showing, Mom's name lit up the screen, and I almost ignored it. But old instincts are hard to kill, and the part of me trained to jump when they called made me swipe to answer. "Hi, Mom, Sadie." "Sweetheart." Her voice was syrupy. Her "I want something" voice. I'd been able to identify it for years. "How are you, honey? We've been thinking about you so much." "Sure, I'm fine." "Busy with work?" "Wonderful. We're so proud of you working so hard." She paused, calculated, deliberate. "Listen, sweetie. Here it comes. We have the most exciting news. We're planning a family trip to Aspen for Christmas week. Doesn't that sound AMA?" "You're amazing with kids, sweetheart. And it would only be a few hours here and there." There it was. The real reason for the call, $2,000 up front plus built-in babysitting. That was my value to them. ATM with free childcare included. Not a daughter. Not family. Just a resource. So what do you think? Mom pushed, her voice still dripping with that syrupy fake affection. "Can we count on you?" Something inside me snapped. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just a quiet final tear of whatever thread had kept me tethered to the fantasy that they might someday change. No. Silence. Heavy, stunned. "What?" She finally breathed. "No, Mom. I'm not going to Aspen. I'm not wiring any money. And I'm not babysitting. Sadie Marie Tate." I didn't let her finish. "I saw Marcy's pictures from Cabo," I said. "Looks like you had a great time using Grandma's trust fund for umbrella drinks." Her inhale sliced through the phone. "How dare you? That money was used for legitimate administrative purposes. Management fees." "Right. Funny how those fees always aligned with your luxury vacations. Well, I lived on ramen and worked 2 jobs to pay off loans. You ungrateful, I?" Hung up. My hands trembled not with fear, not anymore, but with adrenaline. With the fierce electric rush of finally standing up for myself, after a lifetime of swallowing every injustice. The phone rang instantly. "Mom, decline." Rang. Again. Decline. A text followed. "Your father will hear about this disrespect." I blocked her number. Then Dad's. Then Ella's. And I stood there in the parking lot of the commercial property I'd just shown. Heart pounding, lungs tight. It felt like stepping off a cliff. Only I wasn't falling. I was flying. That night I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, the reality settling deeper and deeper. My parents would never see me as anything but a tool, something to use when convenient, discard when not. No achievement, no obedience. No amount of bending myself in half would ever earn the love I'd been chasing. But I had $42,000. I had 500,000 airline miles saved from years of hustling in real estate. And I had people who actually treated me like family. A thought began forming. Petty. Maybe. But also poetic. Perfect. Deserved. If my parents wanted to use money to show what mattered to them, then I'd use mine to show what mattered to me. The next morning, I opened my laptop. Flights, resorts, deals, packages, my credit card. Miles could cover for round-trip tickets anywhere. Even somewhere stupidly extravagant. The Maldives appeared again, and again those iconic overwater villas. Turquoise water, blinding white sand, the kind of destination you daydream about, but never believe you'll actually see. I checked the numbers. With my miles, the flights would be covered. The villa was the expensive part.
Oh.
But I found a 2-bedroom overwater residence with its own deck and a pull-out sofa. Delilah would lose her mind over. 7 nights. All inclusive. $28. Oh, my commission could cover it. Barely, but it could. My pulse thundered. This was reckless. This was wildly impulsive. This was absolutely perfectly right. I pictured Aunt Sarah's gentle smile, Uncle Bo's quiet, steady pride, Delilah screaming into a pillow from excitement. I booked it for round-trip flights to Mali. 1 luxury villa suspended over crystal blue water. 7 days. All inclusive. $28,000 of the hardest-earned money of my life, and it felt incredible. That evening I drove to Aunt Sarah's unannounced, laptop under my arm. Uncle Bo answered, eyebrows lifting. Sadie, thought you weren't coming till Thursday, I said. But I need to talk to all of you. Is everyone home? Yeah, Delilah's upstairs. Everything all right? Everything's perfect. We gathered in the living room. Aunt Sarah on the couch. Uncle Bo in his worn recliner. Delilah cross-legged on the rug, phone in hand. All of them watching me. I took a steadying breath, so I began. I talked to my mom yesterday. She invited me to Aspen for Christmas. Aunt Sarah's face tightened. She already understood, and I said no. Actually, I told her no, hung up, and blocked her. Delilah's jaw dropped. Holy shit. Language, Aunt Sarah murmured, though her eyes warmed with unmistakable pride. I realized something, I continued. I've spent my whole life chasing a family that doesn't want me, while ignoring the one that's been here the whole time. Uncle Bo sat up, concern flickering. Sadie, let me finish. I turned my laptop toward them, a confirmation email glowing. I closed a huge commission, $42,000, and I've been saving airline miles. So I did something spur of the moment. Their eyes tracked the screen. I booked us a trip, the 4 of us, to the Maldives. Private overwater villa. 7 days. All inclusive. We leave in 2 weeks. Dead silence. Aunt Sarah slapped a hand over her mouth. Uncle Bo stared like I'd grown wings. Delilah rocketed upright. Are you kidding? The Maldives like? The actual Maldives. The actual Maldives, I said. Oh my God. Delilah shrieked, practically vibrating. This is insane. This is actually insane. Aunt Sarah's eyes were swimming. Sadie, honey, we can't. That's too much. We can, I said softly. And you will. You've fed me, supported me, loved me unconditionally. This isn't charity. This is gratitude. This is me choosing my real family. Single tear escaped down her cheek. Uncle Bo stood, walked over, and folded me into the tightest hug. You didn't have to do this, he said roughly. I know, I whispered. I wanted to. He pulled back, eyes shiny. Well, I guess we're going to the Maldives. Her phone was already in her hands, thumbs moving at lightning speed. I have to tell everyone. This is literally the best thing that's ever happened to me. Can I make TikToks there? Please tell me I can. You can make every TikTok your heart desires, I laughed. Aunt Sarah stepped toward me, touching my cheek with a softness that nearly split me open. Your grandmother would be so proud of you. My throat tightened. I hope so. I know so, she said. You took what they tried to rob from you and turned it into something good. She kissed my forehead. That's real strength, honey. And for the first time since opening that envelope with the $14,650.28 check, I felt like maybe Grandma's legacy hadn't been stolen after all. Maybe I'd been carrying it in me the entire time. Arriving in the Maldives didn't feel like travel. It felt like stepping into a different universe. The water was unreal. That was my very first thought when I stepped onto the villa's private deck. The Indian Ocean spread out endlessly, the kind of impossible turquoise you'd swear was edited. Our overwater villa perched above the reef, glass floor panels in the living room revealing flashes of fish darting below. The sun was warm but gentle, the breeze scented with salt and plumeria. This isn't real, Delilah whispered beside me. She'd barely looked up from her phone since we arrived, filming everything. This literally cannot be real. It's real. Uncle Bo said behind us, his voice quiet. He hadn't said much since we landed, just stared at everything like he was afraid to blink. Aunt Sarah stepped out of one of the bedrooms, her eyes already red. She'd cried 3 times so far on the plane, at the resort entrance, and again when she saw the villa. Happy tears, she insisted each time. But I knew it was years of scraping by, years of settling. Years of never having something like this finally lifting off her shoulders. I think I'm going for a swim, I said. Anyone want to come? Give me 5 minutes, Delilah shouted, sprinting inside. Uncle Bo sank onto a lounger with the paperback thriller he'd bought at the airport. Aunt Sarah joined him, their fingers intertwining effortlessly decades of love, woven into a single gesture. That was love. Quiet, steady, showing up. The next few days blurred into paradise. We snorkeled above coral gardens, ate seafood cooked by private chefs, and watched the sun sink beneath the water every night from our deck. Delilah filmed nonstop her TikTok blowing up. Day in the life at a Maldives villa? My cousin surprised us with a luxury vacation. Poe, your family actually loves you. That last one had a longer story. I watched her record it one afternoon while Aunt Sarah and Uncle Bo napped. She sat on the deck, ocean shimmering behind her. Her voice was steadier than I expected, so my cousin Sadie basically got screwed over by her parents and sister. She explained everything, how they'd stolen my inheritance, treated me like a free nanny, used me my whole life. How they tried it again. How I finally said no. Instead, she used the money she earned to bring us here, her real family. The people who actually showed up for her. She panned the camera around our villa. This is what it looks like when someone values you. Not fake family photos for clout. Not treating people like ATMs. Actual love. Then she looked back at the camera. If you're dealing with toxic family, remember, blood doesn't make family. Love does. Actions do. She posted it that night. By morning, 500K views. By noon, 2 million. By that evening, my phone, which I'd kept on only for emergencies, was melting under notifications. I was on the deck with a frozen mocktail when I finally checked. 53 missed calls. 147 texts. Most were from random numbers, probably people who got my info from Ella's old doxing attempts, something I'd conveniently forgotten while living in paradise. But some were from people I recognized, old friends, co-workers, saw Delilah's video. Is it true? Oh my God, I always knew something was off about your family. You're incredible. Seriously inspiring. Scrolled, stomach twisting with a messy swirl of validation and dread. Then I saw the subject line. Contract termination, Ella Tate, partnership Baby Bloom Brands. One of her biggest sponsorships, the one she'd bragged about for months. I opened the email. Ella had forwarded it to me herself. Buried under a pile of insults, dear Miss Tate. After reviewing recent social media content regarding you and your family, Baby Bloom Brands is terminating our partnership effective immediately. Our values focus on authentic family connection. Public perception no longer aligns with our message. Per Section 7.3, we are within our rights to terminate due to reputation concerns. Bottom line, Ella was canceled, and she blamed me. Her message was feral. You ruined me. Do you even understand what you've done? That was $15,000 a month. I have a child, Sadie. How could you let your cousin exploit our private issues? You're going to pay for this. Everyone will know what a vindictive, ungrateful bitch you are. I read it twice, deleted it, then ordered another mocktail and kept watching the ocean. The video kept blowing up. Simillion. Woo million. News outlets picked it up. Woman uses inheritance to treat real family after parents. Steal trust fund. Delilah handled the attention like a pro, funny, honest, calm. Ella did not. On day 5, Delilah burst onto the deck, pale and breathless. Sadie, you need to see this. She pulled up Ella's Instagram. My sister was sitting in perfect lighting, camera angled just right, her trademark style. But her message was pure poison. I need to address something, she said, voice trembling with rehearsed emotion. My sister Sadie has been spreading lies about our family. She's twisted the narrative to make herself look like a victim, when really, she's been the ungrateful, cruel one. Then she held up her phone and played edited voicemails spliced together to make me sound awful. I don't owe you anything, my voice said, cut from a conversation where she demanded I buy her a new car. Another clip. Maybe if you weren't so selfish, stripped from context. Now sounding like a random insult instead of a statement about how differently our parents treated us. The video kept going, painting me as a spiteful, jealous sister who'd supposedly stolen from the... Her phone was practically on fire, fingers flying. I need to tell everyone. This is literally the best thing that's ever happened to me. Can I make TikToks while we're here? Please tell me I can. You can make every TikTok you want, I said, laughing. Aunt Sarah stepped forward, cupping my face with a gentle hand. Your grandmother would be so proud of you. My throat tightened. I hope so. I know so, she said softly. You took what they tried to steal from you and made it beautiful. She pressed a kiss to my forehead. That's real strength, honey. For the first time since opening that $14,650.28 envelope, I felt like maybe Grandma's legacy hadn't been stolen. Maybe I'd been carrying it all along. Landing in the Maldives. Didn't feel like travel, it felt like stepping through a portal to another world. The water was unreal. That was the first thought as I stepped onto the villa's private deck. The Indian Ocean stretched out impossibly turquoise, a photo edited too perfectly. Our overwater villa stood on stilts above the reef, glass floor panels revealing darting fish below. The sun was warm but gentle. The breeze carried the scent of salt and plumeria. This can't be real, Delilah breathed. She'd been glued to her phone since we arrived, documenting everything. It is real, Uncle Bo said quietly behind us, finally speaking. He had barely moved since landing, just staring in awe. Aunt Sarah emerged from a bedroom, eyes red-rimmed. She'd cried 3 times already, on the plane, at the resort, and when she saw the villa. Happy tears, she insisted, but I knew it was more years of struggle and sacrifice. Suddenly lifting, I'm going for a swim, I said. Anyone joining? Give me 5 minutes. Delilah sprinted inside. Uncle Bo settled into a lounger with his airport-bought thriller. Aunt Sarah joined him, their fingers lacing naturally decades of quiet love in one touch. That was love, calm, steady, and present. The next days blurred in the best way possible. We snorkeled over coral reefs, dined on seafood from private chefs, and watched sunsets from the deck. Delilah filmed constantly, her TikTok blowing up. Day in the life at a Maldives villa? My cousin surprised us with a luxury vacation. POV, your family actually loves you. That last one had a longer story. I watched her film it while Aunt Sarah and Uncle Bo napped. She sat on the deck, the ocean behind her, speaking directly to the camera. So my cousin Sadie got screwed over by her parents and sister. They stole her inheritance, treated her like a free babysitter, and ignored her all her life. And when they tried again asking for money and labor, she said no. Instead, she took what she earned and brought us here. Her real family, the ones who actually show up. She panned the camera over the villa, the water, the paradise surrounding us. This is what it looks like to be valued. Not fake family photos for clout. Not using people as ATMs. Showing up and loving people. Then she turned back to the camera. If you're struggling with toxic family, remember, blood doesn't make family. Love does. Actions do. She posted it that night. By morning, 500K views. By noon, 2 million. By evening, my phone kept on 4 emergencies was blowing up. 53 missed calls. 147 texts, most from numbers I didn't recognize, probably from Ella's old doxing attempts. But some were familiar. Old friends, former coworkers, saw Delilah's video. Is this true? Oh my God. I always suspected your family was weird. You're amazing. You inspire me. I scrolled, stomach twisting with a cocktail of validation and anxiety. Then I saw the subject line. Contract termination, Ella Tate partnership Baby Bloom brands. One of her biggest sponsorships, the one she constantly flaunted. Ella had forwarded it to me herself. filled with fury and expletives. Dear Miss Tate, after reviewing recent social media content regarding you and your family, Baby Bloom Brands is terminating our partnership effective immediately. Our brand values authentic family connection. Public perception no longer aligns with our message. Per Section 7.3 of your contract, termination without penalty is permitted for reputational concerns. Ella had been canceled, and she blamed me. Her email was a wildfire of rage. You ruined me. Do you know what you've done? $15,000 a month, Sadie. I have a child. How could you be so selfish? Turning family problems into content for your cousin, you will pay. Everyone will know you're a vindictive, ungrateful bitch. I read it twice, then deleted it. Ordered another mocktail, went back to the sunset. The video kept climbing. 4 million views. 1 million. News outlets picked it up. Woman uses inheritance to treat real family after parents steal trust fund. Delilah handled it like a pro grace. Humor, poise. Ella, not so much. On day 5, Delilah ran onto the deck, face pale, phone in hand. Sadie, you need to see this. She showed me Ella's Instagram, my sister, polished and staged. Delivered venom masked as emotion. I need to address something. Sadie has been spreading lies online. She's manipulating the story to make herself look like a victim when she's actually been ungrateful and cruel. She played edited voicemails, spliced to make me look malicious. One clip. I don't owe you anything. Taken from a conversation where she demanded I buy a new car. Another, maybe if you weren't so selfish. Taken from context about parental favoritism, the video painted me as a jealous, vindictive sister who had allegedly stolen from the contorted with rage. You don't get to dismiss us. We're your parents? Open this goddamn door. No, leave, now. Mom leaned closer to the camera, her voice dripping with that fake sweetness she used whenever she wanted to manipulate someone. Sadie, sweetie, we just want to talk. Families should be able to talk things out, don't you think? Be reasonable. There's nothing to talk about, I said flatly. You stole my inheritance. Ella doxed me. And now you're harassing me at my home. Leave, or I'm pressing charges for trespassing. Ella lunged toward the camera, shrieking. You ruined my career. You turned our private business into a public circus. You owe me compensation, you selfish bitch. The only thing I owe you, I said, voice steady as stone, is nothing. Everything I've done, I paid for with money I earned. You aren't entitled to my income, my time, or my presence. Leave. Dad's color shifted from red to a dangerous shade of purple. You think you can talk to us like this? You think you're untouchable now because you have some money? I will make your life hell, Sadie. I will destroy everything you've built. I'll call your boss. I'll WHAM. He kicked the door. Hard. The frame shook. The deadbolt rattled. My heart shot up into my throat. Uncle Bo moved before I could react. 3 long strides, and he was at the door. Bo, don't, I started. But he was already unlocking the deadbolt. The door flew open, but it wasn't me standing. There it was Uncle Bo, all 6'4" of him filling the doorway like a living wall. The shift in my father's face was instant. Rage melted. Fear took its place. Real, unmistakable fear. Uncle Bo didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His quiet was more lethal than shouting. Daniel. Dad stumbled back a step. Bo, this doesn't concern you. That concerns me very much. Your daughter? Dad laughed weakly. She's my daughter. This is family business. Family doesn't kick down doors, Uncle Bo said, stepping forward. Family doesn't steal inheritances. Family doesn't threaten. Mom, Dad, and Ella all retreated at once. You're not her family, he continued. You're bullies who got angry because she finally stopped letting you bleed her dry. Dad tried to regain volume. Now you listen here, no, Uncle Bo said, still calm. You listen. Something in his posture shifted, bigger, heavier, unmovable. You have 5 seconds to get off this property. If you're still here after that, I'm going to break the leg you used to kick that door. Are we clear? Silence. Cold, absolute silence. Mom grabbed Dad's arm. Daniel, let's go. This isn't worth it. But Ella, reckless, furious, Ella stepped forward with her phone raised. You just threatened assault. I got it on video. We can sue you for Uncle Bo looked at her. Whatever she saw in his expression shut her up mid-word. You threatened Sadie's career, he said. You doxed her. You exposed her to harassment and potential danger. You came to her home uninvited and damaged her property. His tone remained perfectly calm. You want to compare legal problems? Please. Try me. Dad yanked Ella back by the wrist. We're leaving. Smart choice, Uncle Bo replied. They retreated toward the stairs, stiff and cornered. Mom kept her gaze glued to the floor. Ella's mascara streaked down her cheeks as she cried. And Dad, my loud, cruel father, looked small, diminished. At the top of the stairs, he turned back. This isn't over. Yes, Uncle Bo said. It is. Their footsteps thudded heavily down the stairs, followed by the building's front door slamming hard enough to tremble the floorboards. Uncle Bo stayed at the door for a moment longer, watching, making sure they were really gone. Then he shut it, locked it, and turned toward me. I was trembling. You okay? He asked gently. I nodded, then shook my head, then burst into tears. He wrapped me up in a hug, warm, solid, safe, smelling like sawdust and Old Spice. Contorted with rage. You don't get to dismiss us. We're your parents. Open this goddamn door? No. Leave. Now. Mom leaned closer to the camera, her voice sweet and poisonous all at once. Sadie, sweetie, we just want to talk. Families should be able to talk things out, don't you think? Be reasonable. There's nothing to talk about, I said flatly. You stole my inheritance. Ella doxed me. And now you're harassing me at my home? Leave, or I'm pressing charges for trespassing. Ella lunged toward the camera, shrieking. You ruined my career. You turned our private business into a public circus. You owe me compensation, you selfish bitch. The only thing I owe you, I said, voice steady as stone, is nothing. Everything I've done, I paid for with money I earned. You aren't entitled to my income, my time, or my presence. Leave. Dad's color shifted from red to a dangerous shade of purple. You think you can talk to us like this? You think you're untouchable now because you have some money? I will make your life hell, Sadie. I will destroy everything you've built. I'll call your boss. I'll WHAM. He kicked the door hard. The frame shook. The deadbolt rattled. My heart shot up into my throat. Uncle Bo moved before I could react. 3 long strides and he was at the door. Bo, don't I started, but he was already unlocking the deadbolt. The door flew open, but it wasn't me standing. There, it was Uncle Bo, all 6'4" of him, filling the doorway like a living wall. The shift in my father's face was instant. Rage melted. Fear took its place. Real, unmistakable fear. Uncle Bo didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His quiet was more lethal than shouting. Daniel. Dad stumbled back a step. Bo, this doesn't concern you. You're harassing my daughter. That concerns me very much, your daughter. Dad laughed weakly. She's my daughter. This is family business. Family doesn't kick down doors, Uncle Bo said, stepping forward. Family doesn't steal inheritances. Family doesn't threaten. Mom, Dad, and Ella all retreated at once. You're not her family, he continued. You're bullies who got angry because she finally stopped letting you bleed her dry. Dad tried to regain volume. Now you listen here, no, Uncle Bo said, still calm. You listen. Something in his posture shifted, bigger, heavier, unmovable. You have 5 seconds to get off this property. If you're still here after that, I'm going to break the leg you used to kick that door. Are we clear? Silence. Cold, absolute silence. Mom grabbed Dad's arm. Daniel, let's go. This isn't worth it. But Ella, reckless, furious, Ella stepped forward with her phone raised. You just threatened assault. I got it on video. We can sue you for, Uncle Bo looked at her. Whatever she saw in his expression shut her up mid-word. You threatened Sadie's career, he said. You doxed her. You exposed her to harassment and potential danger. You came to her home uninvited and damaged her property. His tone remained perfectly calm. You want to compare legal problems? Please. Try me. Dad yanked Ella back by the wrist. We're leaving. Smart choice, Uncle Bo replied. They retreated toward the stairs, stiff and cornered. Mom kept her gaze glued to the floor. Ella's mascara streaked down her cheeks as she cried. And Dad, my loud, cruel father, looked small. Diminished at the top of the stairs, he turned back. This isn't over, yes, Uncle Bo said. It is. Their footsteps thudded heavily down the stairs, followed by the building's front door slamming hard enough to tremble the floorboards. Uncle Bo stayed at the door for a moment longer, watching, making sure they were really gone. Then he shut it, locked it, and turned toward me. I was trembling. You okay? He asked gently. I nodded, then shook my head, then burst into tears. He wrapped me up in a hug, warm, solid, safe, smelling like sawdust and Old Spice. Continuation after the hug, leading into the open house scene. It's okay. They're gone. I've got you. His hands stayed firm on my shoulders. They were going to. I couldn't finish. But they didn't, and they won't. Bullies are always cowards, Sadie, always. They only attack when they think you're weak and alone. But you're not alone. I wiped my eyes. Thank you. For being here, You don't thank family, he said simply. My phone buzzed. Unknown number? You think you've won? Wait until we destroy your job. See how smug you are when you're unemployed. I showed Uncle Bo. His jaw tightened. Time to get a restraining order? Will they approve it? They didn't actually hurt me. They threatened you, damaged your property, and you have it all on video. That's enough. He pulled out his phone. I'm calling the police to file a report right now. You're documenting everything. Starting tonight. I nodded, feeling numb but oddly calm. Within 20 minutes, 2 officers were at my door, taking statements, reviewing ring footage. One of them, a woman in her 40s with kind eyes, looked at me seriously. You did the right thing not opening that door. File for a restraining order. Escalation doesn't get better on its own. Will they retaliate? I asked. She glanced at her partner. Some people do. But you're building a paper trail. Every violation documented. Every threat strengthens your case. After they left, Uncle Bo insisted on staying the night. Taking my couch despite my protests, I tried to sleep but kept startling awake. Convinced I heard pounding on the door again. Around 2 a.m. I went to the kitchen for water. Uncle Bo was awake too, phone in hand. Can't sleep either, I asked. Just keeping watch. Old habits. He'd done 2 tours in Afghanistan. Some things never leave you. I sat beside him. Do you think they'll really try to ruin my career? He paused. Probably. It's all they have left. What if they succeed? Then you rebuild. You're good at what you do, Sadie. One incident won't erase that. But I don't think they'll succeed, he added softly. You're prepared now. You're not the scared kid they used to control. I exhaled. I was scared tonight. But being scared isn't the same as being weak. You stood your ground. That's what matters. I leaned against his shoulder. He put an arm around me. We stayed like that until sunrise, a quiet vigil. I realized I'd spent 28 years looking for a father's protection and had it all along. I just hadn't known where to look. Criminal trespassing and disturbing the peace. I want them removed. You can't, Ella began. I can, I said, voice steady, and I am. I faced the room, forcing calm professionalism into every word. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for this interruption. These 2 individuals are my estranged mother and sister. They've been harassing me for weeks after I refused to fund them. I have documentation, police reports, and active restraining order filings. Unfortunately, this is just the latest escalation. One of the older Beerza, sharply dressed man who'd been seriously evaluating the property stepped forward. You're filing a police report? He asked. Yes, sir, Immediately. His mouth tightened as he looked at Mom and Ella like they were something sticky on his shoe. Then you're handling this with impressive restraint, Miss Tate. Mom jerked upright, her dramatic fainting spell forgotten. You don't understand. She destroyed her sister's future. I understand completely. The man cut in, tone icy. Manipulation like this? I've watched my own daughter deal with it. He looked back to me. I'll continue the tour once they're removed. Several guests murmured agreement. A woman even stepped closer to me, a silent show of solidarity. Ella was still recording, but her confidence cracked. This was not playing out as she'd scripted. Marcus and his partner stepped in, taking each woman by the arm. Ladies, he said firmly, you need to leave. Now, get your hands off me. Ella screeched, jerking wildly. This is assault. Everyone here saw that. You checked in under fake names, Marcus replied, unbothered. That's fraud. You're trespassing. Walk out on your own, or be physically removed and charged with resisting. Mom began crying real tears this time, hot and furious. Sadie, please. Don't do this. We're your family. I looked at her and felt absolutely nothing. No guilt. No ache. Just a clean, quiet emptiness. No, I said softly. You're not. Security escorted them out. Ella shrieked curses the whole way. When the door finally closed, several guests clapped. Richard Sterling appeared at my side, his expression controlled. My office. Monday morning, my stomach dipped. Richard, to review your restraining order paperwork, he said flatly. You need to file it immediately. I'll serve as a witness, if required. He glanced around the disrupted open house. Now let's get back to business. You've got a property to sell. Relief almost buckled my knees. The police arrived about 10 minutes later. I gave my statement, handed over the security footage, and watched the officers walk out to confront Mom and Alehu, who were sulking in their car. Refusing to leave the neighborhood, the suited gentleman Harold Brennan waded through the entire ordeal. When the police finally issued citations and left, he approached me again. That took backbone, he said. My daughter's been fighting her ex's family for years. She's learning what you clearly already know. Bullies only stop when someone pushes back. Thank you for staying, I said. You didn't have to, actually I did. He smiled. I'm buying the house. Full asking price. Let's write up the offer. I blinked. I what? You heard me? Anyone who can manage chaos like that with poise is someone I trust. And the house is spectacular. Win-win. By the end of the open house at 5 p.m., I had 3 offers wanted asking, 2 above. As I packed up, Richard pulled me aside. You did good, Tate. Really good, even with the scene. Especially with the scene. You stayed calm, protected the clients, and followed procedure. He paused. Get the restraining order. Document everything. And if they try anything else, you call me immediately. We take care of our agents. I nodded, throat tight. Driving home, my phone rang. Uncle Bo? How'd it go? He asked. They showed up. Caused a scene. Got cited for trespassing. Us. Then you're okay? I'm okay. Better than okay. I sold the house. Of course you did, he said. You're a Tate, I smiled. No, I'm a Miller. His laugh was deep and warm. Damn right you are. The courthouse hallway was strangely quiet for a Monday morning, nothing like the chaos of the last 3 months. I sat between Aunt Sarah and Uncle Bo, a thick evidence folder resting heavy in my lap. Inside it, the wreckage of my biological family's choices, ring footage of my father kicking my door, police reports of my mother's theatrics, screenshots of Ella's online abuse. My attorney, Patricia Whitmore, had called the case airtight. But my heartbeat hadn't gotten the message. When the hearing room finally opened, everything moved with clinical precision. Judge Reynolds reviewed the footage, his brows knitting. He watched my father's rage, my sister's public meltdown, his expression hardening. This is clear harassment, he ruled, his voice echoing through the chamber. The temporary restraining order was granted. The respondents were prohibited from contacting me, directly or indirectly. Any violation meant immediate arrest. The scratch of the judge's pen on the document rang louder than a shout in my ears. It was the sound of a heavy chain finally snapping. Walking into the crisp afternoon, I didn't feel triumphant. I just felt light. A week later, I was packing up my apartment. My lease had ended, and I was moving to a condo with a dormana. It's a physical barrier to match the legal one protecting me, as I cleared the back of my closet. My hand brushed against a dusty box shoved deep under the bed. I pulled it out, coughing in the stale air. I already knew what was inside, but seeing it still made my chest ache. A watch. A bull of glass and steel, nestled in velvet. A Coach handbag, leather still smelling of new tags intact. Expensive peace offerings I had bought 5 years ago for parents who only spoke the language of material things. I had spent money I didn't have, hoping these luxuries could buy me a seat at their table, but I'd never given them. Some deep, self-preserving instinct had warned me it wouldn't matter. They would take the gifts, murmur a distracted thanks, and nothing would change. I held the watch, tracing the cold glass face. Time I could never get back. I ran my fingers over the Coach bag, feeling the weight of the baggage I was finally ready to release. I didn't put the box in the moving truck. I drove to a local women's shelter instead. When I handed it to the coordinator, she gasped. "These will help someone look professional for a job interview," she said. "Someone's starting over." I smiled. Exactly. Transforming symbols of rejection into tools for someone else's freedom felt like the last step of my own exorcism. Christmas came, 3 weeks later, filling Aunt Sarah's small house with the smell of glazed ham and pine needles. There was no tension, no walking on eggshells, no performative perfection. Just a crooked tree adorned with Delilah's childhood crafts, and the sound of genuine laughter. After dinner, as snow began falling outside, Uncle Bo motioned for me to follow him into the garage's sanctuary, smelling of sawdust and oil. He leaned against his workbench and handed me a large manila envelope. "What's this?" I asked, sensing the weight in the air. "Open it." My fingers trembled as I slid the papers out. Petition for adult adoption. The words swam before my eyes. "You don't need to carry the name of people who don't deserve you," Bo said, voice rough with an emotion he rarely showed. "Sarah and I talked about it. We want to make it official. You're our daughter, Sadie, in every way that matters." Tears came, hot and fast. I looked at this man, this mountain of a man, who had shielded me from my father's rage, who had saved the best pork chop for me, who had always shown up when it counted. "Is that a yes?" he asked gently. "Yes," I choked out. 1,000 times yes. We signed the papers at the kitchen table. The scratching of the pen was far sweeter than any judge's signature had been. Aunt Sarah cried openly. Delilah cheered, hugging me so tightly I thought my ribs might crack. Sadie Marie Miller. Later that night, driving home to my new condo, I stopped at a red light and caught my reflection in the rearview mirror. I looked the same, but everything had changed. I had begun this journey with a check for $14,650.28 and a soul hollowed out by betrayal. I was ending it with a protected career, a home that was truly mine, and a family that had chosen me as deliberately as I had chosen them. The daughter's revenge wasn't destruction. It wasn't burning their world down. It was building a beautiful, impenetrable life in the ruins they had left behind. It was choosing love over bitterness, and finally, for the first time in 28 years, I was free.